So for a while now, Smash Ultimate has been dealing with this whole stage list fiasco. A handful of tournaments run with one, then we get a new standardized list and nobody cares. It's a cycle that repeats itself. We're doomed to constantly be in this cycle of Pokemon Stadium 2. And as an Ultimate competitor, I like this stage. It's a fun one to play on. However, during competing, I find myself missing the more wild stages. I also play Melee, and I say this because despite that stage list having not one, not two, but 4 triplats, its counterpicks genuinely feel more fun and game-changing than Ultimate's handful of layouts. Hi, I'm Indigo, and I'm not ranked in my own state, let alone worldwide. But here's some stages that I think tournaments could try implementing. Starting off, we've got 2 categories here. The cool one, which is Hazards On, and the lame one, that's Hazards Off. I wanted to recommend a handful of stages, and I believe offering both in cases like this will help give everyone something to try out. I know some people might already be confused, like Indigo, Hazards Toggle was Sakurai's god gift to competitive Ultimate. While yes, Hazards Off allows for a few cool stages to be used in competitive play here and there, it also strips away a lot of unique features in a lot of stages that I kinda miss.
% of Smash Roll, you got the balloon. Blade beamed it. There you go.
And to start things out with Hazards On, we're talking about Smashville. I'm just gonna say flat out, I don't like this stage with Hazards Off. I find the middle platform and the small area of the stage to be too close together, with the middle platform just kind of being awkward to maneuver around. It all feels claustrophobic. However, with Hazards On, I think the moving platform allows for a lot more room to breathe, and also for a lot of cool chases off stage from characters who otherwise would be way too scared to do so. I mean, edgeguarding in Ultimate has been fake for 5 whole years minus a few select characters. Why not give it a chance to shine finally? Alongside that, the balloon is finally back, and yes, that is an entirely standalone reason why the stage should be like this. And say, hypothetically, on a Hazards On rule set, you miss the single platform in the middle of Smashville. Well, good for you, because Hollow Bastion is still a stage in the game. And being entirely honest, can you imagine a Game 5 Grand Finals last stock scenario in this version of the stage? Would that not be sick? Yes, its blast zones are different and the stage is a slight bit wider, but it's similar enough to do the trick. And on the topic of the Animal Crossing stages, Hazards On Town and City is so much better than the Hazards Off version. While I like Town and City without the moving platforms, they genuinely help so much in removing the cheesiness the stage is associated with in modern Ultimate. I'm looking at you, Kazuya. These Hazards On versions are a lot more dynamic and fun to play on than the standard versions. And while you can argue that in a competitive environment, a more dynamic stage list doesn't exactly mean better, I would argue in year 6 of a game it would be way more interesting to watch. And now that we're a whole 2 minutes, 40 seconds, and 48 milliseconds into a video about new stages to play on, let's actually talk about some new stages. Starting with Yoshi's Story and Fountain of Dreams. While Yoshi's Story sees some use as a counterpick already, Fountain of Dreams has always gotten a bad look due to it having a little bit of lag near the start of Ultimate that they patched out. Yeah, no, the stage just straight up doesn't lag anymore, at least in 1v1s. If we want to keep it banned for doubles, that's fine, but it's genuinely not a problem in the slightest. Anywho, on to talk about Yoshi's first. The introduction of Randall is a godsend for characters with middling recoveries, and I believe similar to my Smashville point, allows for edgeguards and risky kills off stage to be much more of a thing. And the Shy Guys don't drop off food anymore if items are turned off. Also, real quick, I want to say, if any of this background footage looks awful, I recorded this with 2 friends who don't really play Smash because everyone else was busy. I promise this doesn't showcase my actual skill at the game, please trust me. It's a fun stage, if not a little one-sided, but that's why I opt for it being a counterpick. Yes, characters like Mario and Mii Brawler pay rent on this stage, but in that case, please just ban it in those matchups to deal with another triplat. Seriously, I feel like we forgot that counterpicks are meant to give an advantage to one side. As for Fountain of Dreams, it's a triplet that's also sometimes an FD-like. So don't worry, Kazuya players, I didn't totally screw you over with the Town and City change. I'll be honest and say that the main reason I want this stage legal is just due to how pretty it is, but I do alongside that believe that it's a good fit for the game in a Hazards On rule set. It's a fairly unique counterpick, with both characters getting what they want. Some characters get their FD combos, while others get their platform combos. It's a win-win, or lose-lose. So here's my proposed Hazards On rule set. Is it perfect? Probably not, but slap JSR on and hey, wait a second, why didn't I mention Yoshi's Story Brawl? Yoshi's Story Brawl is a fun stage with an off-stage platform and yada yada. Look, it's a mix of Hollow Bastion and Yoshi's Story. The only reason it's not uniformly kept right now, from what I can tell, is these slants in the ground. Look, I understand Ultimate's players are allergic to slants in the ground, but as someone who regularly competes, I don't get it at all. Yes, it impacts play for things to be at an angle, but I don't think that should be seen as a bad thing. Stage positioning has always been seen as an important aspect of Smash. This is just simply a new level of it. And there, now I've explained all of the unique picks. There were some stages that unfortunately don't really have a place on a list like this for one reason or another. Stages like Dreamland or Northern Cave. But with that, I believe we're good to move on to the next category of Hazards Off, in which case I have a lot less to really talk about. But I still have a good bit. Before that though, I want to say something real quick. I didn't bring up any shifting or transformation stages in this video. So far at least. I plan on saving those for their own standalone video. So if you want to see that in the future, or just want to support the channel, consider subscribing. I'm really trying to make a push for channel monetization right now, and any support along the way would help immensely. Anyways, on to Hazards Off. And if you think this means I'm gonna pull any punches, you're wrong. Our first entry is Unova Pokemon League. This stage was banned because Palutena mains didn't like having to use their brain while they recovered. Yeah, it fucks over teleport recoveries. It's a counter pick. But it also changes a few scenarios with the niche platform heights. Throw in the fact it's a bit shorter than PS2, and we have a version of Pokemon Stadium that's actually a lot more visually distinct. Yes, that is a point in its favor compared to PS1. Moving on now, let's say you missed the insanity of the Hazards On list. I mean, come on, it's been one whole entry. Well, don't worry, because my final picks for this video on Hazards Off are probably the most divisive ones yet. AKA, nobody is going to take me seriously. Our final two of the day are Halberd and Castle Seige. I know why both of these stages were banned, but on the search for more interesting and creative stages, I stumbled back onto them and realized, God, they're fun. Let's start with Halberd, the only stage in this rotation that changes mid-match. Its layouts are very similar to Smashville and Hollow Bastion, with the main difference being you're able to pass through under the stage to the top. I understand this may give characters like Meta Knight, CSS, and Pikachu an advantage, characters with off-stage games that allow them to abuse this. But I also think it gives a lot of interesting recovery mix-ups to the rest of the cast. And besides, the layout shifting to land on the Halberd means those characters can't just camp under the stage forever. And if you're wondering why this has to be Hazards Off, yeah, the cannon and arms just don't do anything in this version. Which is a fucking miracle, by the way. So, in my eyes, it's just a more dynamic and interesting version of Smashville. Lastly is Castle Seige. During HBox's Wacky Stage Coin Box, which was an online tournament that featured a variety of interesting stages, I saw this as one of the most divisive stages on if it should be allowed or not, as a genuine discussion. Let's get one of the big ones out of the way first. The asymmetry of this stage causes stage control to be a much bigger deal, which I can see being a deal breaker for some people. However, I just believe it to be a similar situation to how I defended slants. Stage control has always been a big deal. This just makes it more polarizing, fit for a counter pick. Alongside that, something going for it is how small it is. And I know Ultimate players love that idea, considering how much certain characters like to just, sit on the other side of the stage. This gives them much less space to run away. And before you ask, on Hazards Off, it just doesn't transform, so no walk-offs and no weird tilting platforms. And with all of that covered, this is my suggestion for a Hazards Off rule set. I'm, of course, a little biased in what traditional stages I decided to keep, but hey, this is my video. If you disagree, let me know in your comment. At the end of the day, I'm not a TO. I'm not a person who should decide these things. Top players have the right to play in and not play in whatever they want. This is also not an attack on the competitive scene. I am a competitive player myself. I understand why some of these stages aren't kept, but I want to encourage you, the viewer. Say you host a Wi-Fi tourney, or some sort of event where you play with your friends competitively. Maybe try sneaking in one or more of these stages, or maybe try suggesting a modest Hazards On rule set. I just like theorizing on what the Smash Ultimate stage list could be if we just loosened up a tiny bit. I'm not saying we have to go with Delfino or Mementos or WarioWare, but I am saying we shouldn't limit ourselves so hard. We've been playing on PS2 for the past 6 years at this point. It's not selfish to want a slightly different background to stare at. So hey, get out there, try out these stages. I know I did for this video, and they were a ton of fun to play on as a competitive player. But most importantly, please stop running it back to PS2. Oh my fucking god! Show me your best crystal blisters, it's all over now. Psycho can't use a